Howdy, gang, and welcome to the first edition of Canon Fodder. This is going to be Canon Films, but this is going to be the Golan Globus era. I think this is going to be the era that most people that watch Canon Films are going to be interested in, is why I finally decided on just focusing on Golan and Globus stuff from the 70s and 80s on into, I believe, the early 90s. Tonight I'm going to be covering Uranium Conspiracy and Prime Time, also known as American Raspberry. So never fear if you've not heard of either of these two films. I'm going to be talking not, like 2 hours on each one of them, or even 2 hours on both of them. We're going to briefly talk about them, but I think it's going to give you a good idea of what these films are about, and if you would even be interested in watching them. I'm also going to give my Deadites rating for both of these films tonight. And we're also going to gauge, whether or not I'm going to do a couple of these, just like the Dick's Picks, and I'm going to determine if this needs to be done as a live stream. I thought this Canon Fodder would be really fun as a live stream, and I thought that maybe people would want to interact in the chat with me, with each other in the chat, but that may not turn out to be the case, and that's okay. I can back up and punt, if it turns out that people just don't care, So I'm just trying different things out. It's kind of like that line in Pieces where he says, we're just trying on clothes without labels. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying different things out kind of blindly, just to see what sticks and what doesn't. Now, just because people don't seem interested in, the Dick's Picks or the Canon Fodder or any of the other stuff, doesn't mean I'm just going to quit midstream in it. But I will be, in the back of my mind, I'll be thinking about other ideas to get people interested in the channel again. And if you guys and gals have any suggestions, I know people will give suggestions to the virtual suggestion box, and I'm taking all those into account. If you want to bring up suggestions in the chat tonight or otherwise, I'll be happy to take all of those into account. Now, before we get started with the movies for tonight, I just want to remind everybody that I still have the poll up for the two watch along movies. We're going to be doing this by poll after the next one I do. So for the February 22nd and 23rd watch along week, I have a couple of polls up. There's 3 movies per poll that you guys and gals can pick from. And I see 12 to 15 people have already put their vote in. So if you haven't gotten your vote in and you want to have a say-so out of which of those 3 movies we are going to do the watch along on, make sure you get that in. I'm going to keep those polls up until the week of that particular watch along, and then I will lock it down and let y'all know the results. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get to this episode of Canon Fodder. So both of these movies, late 70s, I think both of them may have been 1977. So Uranium Conspiracy, I actually like this a lot more than I thought I was. Tom, hey Tom, you said, well, I see very boring movie reviews that have 5,000 views. You are better. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So Uranium Conspiracy has Fabio Testi on it. Janet Agron's on this. I was like, wow, for those of us that watch a lot of Italian horror films or, Italian films in general, the name Fabio Testi and the name Janet Agron will be names that will, you know, uh, be familiar to you. Okay. So Fabio Testi is usually the good looking, suave guy that gets the ladies. Okay. Most Fabio or movies that Fabio Testi is in, that's, what I get from his characters. So he is working with another guy, and I don't know if I think they're trying to smuggle uranium out of like Africa at the beginning of this. And so I think the other guy's name is Dan, and he hasn't seen his buddy played by Fabio Testi in a while. And the first scene you see, I was like, wow, this movie don't waste any time. But I had to keep in mind that this is a Golan Globus era canon film. Okay. So it was also, I think these early films were not actually quote unquote canon films. What they were films that Golan Globus had put out before they took over canon. And then they re-released them under the Canon logo. Okay. So, um, so the first shot you see of the movie is a woman, showing her boobs. Which I was like, okay, it's canon, it's Golan Globus, it fits, late 70s. Yeah, that's going to be the type of film that we're going to get. Now, when it moves into Dan reconnecting with his buddy and his partner in this uranium takeover, or whatever you want to call it, smuggling, whatever. Fabio Tessi's character is in bed with a woman, and he just comes in there, and it's like, like they're not doing anything. Like, there's not a naked chick there. And I thought that was kind of funny. But Fabio Tessi gets a woman to leave, and then he sits down, he talks to his buddy, and he's like, well, you owe me $10,000. And when you give me my $10,000, I will tell you who's getting this uranium. And so he also tells him, he says, I'm going back to Italy. And so Dan's bosses end up telling him, you've got to go to Italy. And you need to meet up with him in Venice. And you need to figure out who this Baron guy is. We need to figure out who he is, because evidently they're going to get enough uranium that they could make several atom bombs and cause total destruction. So it was kind of hard to figure out who were the good guys and who were the bad guys at first. But Dan's group, I would call the good guys, because they were trying to stop a bunch of these atom bombs being made. So there's supposed to be this Saudi prince that's supposed to meet up with the bad guys. And I guess that's where the transfer of uranium is supposed to take place. So Dan and Fabio Testi's character, they end up posing as the prince and the prince's, I guess, like a bodyguard or something. And they beat these two guys up, and they, like, take off. And Yes, Tom, I agree that Canon was really smart at movie producing. The whole package deal with Canon Films um, was just seamless. And I have heard several times that Golan and Globus, those guys in particular, were hard nosed businessmen. And they, they knew what they wanted. They knew what they wanted to get out of owning Canon Films. And they succeeded. They succeeded in many, many ways. Um, Even, they would put out, you know, less than stellar films sometimes, right? But people watched them because I think the big thing was the way that Golden Globus marketed them. Okay. I think that's what caught people's eyes. It was the complete, package. Um, so to get back to the movie, so they end up, it becomes like an act. It's listed as an action thriller, and I would definitely say that it was one of those, typical almost said late 80s, late 70s action thrillers. Um, so Janet Agron's character, Fabio Testi, ends up meeting up with her, and her name's Helga. She's Swedish, but she was living in Germany, and Fabio Tessi ends up meeting up with her, and they basically have a one night stand. So you get to see some more nudity. You get to see the beautiful Janet Agron standing there in just her panties, and you see her boobs and everything. And she's a little on the skinny side, but not unattractive at all. And I thought this would be something that Steve would like, actually. And he didn't seem interested at all. I said, well, it's got Fabio Testi in it. It's got Janet Agron in it. And he's like, yeah, but I don't have to watch everything with Fabio Testi in it. I was like, okay. He's like, I don't seek out movies with him in it. But I thought he liked the guy as far as his acting chops and all that. So basically, he has a one night stand with Helga. And she's like, will you be back? And he says, I don't know. But he's obviously taken with her. And you can tell that he wants to return, and possibly even make a life with her. And he gets back in touch with her, and he gets back in touch with Dan, and they're, once again, and he basically, the bad guys catch on, and they're going to kill him and Helga. And so he has her jump on a houseboat from the moving boat that they're in. And she kind of, goes into hiding. And I'm not going to tell everything about the movie because I don't want to ruin it for those of you that may have not seen this, may want to see this. And by the way, you can watch this on YouTube. Doesn't look very good, but you can watch it on YouTube. Okay. Keep in mind it's a late 70s movie, folks. And it's probably the version that's on YouTube is probably a VHS rip. I have no doubt about that. So pretty decent, little low budget action thriller. I enjoyed it. I could see myself going back watching it again. And some of you might say, well, Dana, you didn't tell us all of it. Well, again, I don't want to tell you all of it because this is one of those films that I think if you haven't seen it and you may possibly want to watch it, you don't want to know everything about it. Okay. I think I gave you the basics on it. And from that, you can take what you will from that and determine whether you would want to watch it or not. But the great thing is you can watch it for free on YouTube. Won't cost you a cent. Okay. So what rating do I want to give this from the Deadites rating scale? Well, gang, I'm going to give it a 4 Deadites out of 5 because I didn't think it was a bad little movie at all. Like I said, I could see myself most certainly going back and watching it again, and maybe watching it in a more leisurely pace. I mean, I watched it all. I didn't fast forward any of it or anything like that. But, a lot of times I'm strapped for time and I can't focus on every little detail. And so I could definitely see myself going back and watching Uranium Conspiracy again, and enjoying it all over again. Good little action thriller, well worth your time. It's only about an hour and 39 minutes, so it won't take a lot out of your day or your night to watch. So that is Uranium Conspiracy. And the second one is called Primetime, aka American Raspberry. This is not, I did not find this on YouTube. I found trailers and like clips from it. But I did not find the whole film. But Steve was able to get it for me. And it's only about an hour and 14 minutes long. And basically what Primetime is a string of sketch comedy stuff. But it's most un-PC stuff. One sketch I think was adapted from a National Lampoon thing. So that, if that tells you anything, National Lampoon was not known for being very PC back in the day. And Primetime is not a movie that would get made today, I don't think, because it would offend basically everybody. And in our day and age of people being, butthurt over everything, and I mean everything, this sketch comedy film would not fly. It just, because it makes fun of everybody. It even makes fun of Kentuckians, and I found that part hilarious. I mean, they were referring to people in Kentucky as woodfuckers. So, and I've lived in Kentucky all my life, and I found it funny. But I can see where some people would call it, that's offensive. That triggers me or whatever. And if that, I'm not putting down people for that. I'm just saying, I think the majority of us have lost the ability to enjoy raw comedy, because we're triggered by anything and everything. And that there's a small percentage of us that it doesn't bother, but the majority of the people, you can't say anything about anybody without somebody getting their feathers ruffled anymore. I'm not going to go into details about what I mean about that. But comedy is comedy. Being disrespectful to somebody because of their color, their nationality, their sexual orientation, their religious affiliation, or whatever, being disrespectful is a whole other thing entirely. But comedy to me is different. Okay. And like I said, this little sketch comedy film made fun of everybody. Everybody. There wasn't any group, I don't think, that this made fun of. Oh, thank you, Tom. You say your video on David Lynch was tops. I appreciate that. And I assume are you talking about the David Lynch portrait, or the one like I did by myself and then me and Candace did it? Or maybe you mean all of them. But anyway, so don't be expecting a film like a real film, because like I said, this is sketch comedy. And you will see some familiar faces on there. Um, and if you are offended by watching what appears to be a man like nursing off of a woman's boob and getting milk, if that offends you, you might not want to watch this. They have a Charlie's Angels spoof called Manny's Nymphs, and you have some heavy set gals who are, supposed to be Manny's nymphs, and they're helping him solve, crimes and stuff like that, just like Charlie's Angels. So, what else do we have? We have, a take on Tampax, tampons, only these are called Clampax. And that was something that was derived from a National Lampoon sketch, and was used by permission. Hey, Uncle Bill. Um, what do you know about these films, Uncle Bill? Have you ever watched either one of these? I know I had talked to Uncle Bill about the two films that I was going to talk about tonight. But if, anybody that comes in here, if you have any, additional details you'd like to share, what you thought of the films, not a thing about either of these, LOL. Okay. Hey, Uncle Bill, I'm telling you, it's not a very good copy, but I would recommend Uranium Conspiracy. If you weren't in here when I was talking about it, I think it's a good little action thriller. Um, and it's got Fabio Testi and Janet Agron on it, but I think I already told Uncle Bill about that. But so you have, like I said, you have these little sketch comedy things with a wraparound of the president of the United States and some, military and government officials who are trying to figure out who's doing this, who is taking over the airwaves and putting all this stuff on there, and how can they stop it. That's basically, in a nutshell, that's what this is. um, and again, if you are offended very easily by stuff, if you are triggered by stuff, and I'm not trying to be a smartass here, I'm really saying, because this was made in 1977, so we're in a whole different world now. The vernacular has changed, the landscape has changed, whatever way you want to look at it. So if you are easily offended, if you're easily triggered by, certain people, groups, whatever, being made fun of, you might want to skip this one. Okay. I found it funny, like even when it was talking about the Kentucky people and them being wood fuckers. I thought it was funny. I'm sorry, maybe I have poor taste or something. So what would I give this one? Well, I'm going to give it 4 deadites out of 5 too, just because I enjoy sketch comedy from time to time. I used to watch Saturday Night Live. I want to watch Second City, but I haven't ever, watched them Second City. I love the stuff that National Lampoon always did, and all of that. So I'm a fan of that kind of stuff. Now, I didn't give these, a perfect score, but I think that 4 deadites out of 5 suits both of these films. Uncle Bill, you say, LOL, I must have missed this one. Tom, you said it's like Caroloco Films. Great producing. Yeah, exactly. Great producing, great packaging. The Golan Globus guys, like I said, they were businessmen, but they were smart businessmen. There's smart businessmen, and then there's not so smart businessmen. And Golan and Globus, they were smart. They were definitely, definitely smart, and a great asset to Canon Films, I feel like. So that is it for me, or from me, about these couple of films. Like I said, or tried to say a little bit earlier, I don't intend for these to be like hour or 2 hour long things. I just want to get on here, give you the highlights, and give my rating, and hopefully, maybe some of these films that you haven't seen, you may say, well, I've never seen that, but Dana told me where I can watch it. Just like with Uranium Conspiracy, it's on YouTube. Like I said, not a very good copy. But like I said, chances are very, very good that it's a VHS rip. Okay. What's up next? I'll have to get back to you on that, Uncle Bill, because I know you may be asking, because you may want to be on here. And it also depends too on the ones I can watch. And I'm not watching everything if it's not a film. Like there was one called American Nitro, that was a documentary on funny car racing. I was like, nah, I think I'll skip that one and stick to the movies. But while you're on here, Uncle Bill, I can probably, if y'all don't mind, I can probably bring up my list of Golan Globus stuff. Oh, and I'm sorry, I was wrong. Those were both 1979 films. I was a couple years off. Sorry. I think some places list American Raspberry as 1977. though. Okay. Um, but so let's see. I'm going to have to check and see if Operation Thunderbolt. Ooh, that's got Klaus Kinski in it. Okay. So Operation Thunderbolt will probably be one of the next ones. And Gas Pump Girls, there's one for you guys. I've never seen Gas Pump Girls. So I don't know what that's going to be like. I can guess. But Operation Thunderbolt and Gas Pump Girls will more than likely, Uncle Bill, be the next ones up for discussion. Okay. So if anybody wants to be on here with me next Wednesday when I talk about those two films, I would be glad to have you on here. So, because it probably gets kind of boring just hearing me talk about these films. So just let me know if anybody is interested in being on here for that one. So before I get off of here, though, I want to remind everybody again that the polls are up for the watch along movies. We've had about 12 to 15 people that have already put their vote in. It's on my channel page, so you should be able to see that, and everybody can vote. This is not just a just members only or anything like that. Hey, Russell. But anyway, I think that's all for me. I've been on here for a total of like 33 minutes. almost 34 minutes. But with all that being said, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday, folks. And I'll see everybody next time.